Hello and welcome to everyone to the International Climate Webinar Series first annual meeting, regrouping 5 regional perspectives for resilient tomorrow. How can we accelerate climate solutions through transportation, finance, energy, and digital innovation to create a more resilient future? That's the core question we aim to tackle today, and we are thrilled to have you join us live on LinkedIn and YouTube. For those tuning directly to the virtual studio, don't hesitate to use the chat to connect with our guests, attendees, and ask your question at this Q&A section. Here is a quick look at our agenda today. We will start with North America. This segment will discuss the clean transportation strategy and innovation. We are excited to have our ICWS advisors, Antoine Kumar, Antoine Thompson, and Alain Steivan leading this discussion. Then we will move to the European segment on climate finance for green transition, where we will hear from our guest, Leon Steele from the Netherlands, Steivan Defilla from Switzerland, and tuning in today from China. Finally, we will cover two other regions, Latin America and Indo-Pacific, on energy transition and climate solutions, with contribution from Monica Marin from Colombia and Dr. Bhupendra Singh from New Delhi, India. Each segment will include a panelist discussion, and if the time permits, we will open a Q&A session for our attendees. So let's get started now. Antoine Kumar is a clean energy strategist, joining us from Toronto, Canada, with experience in EV infrastructure and energy efficiency projects across India, Canada, and the US. Antoine Thompson is the CEO of the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition. He is also a strategist, business executive, public figure, and expert in green business, housing, and urban policy. Alain P. Steivan is the CEO of Energy One Solution International. He is an international expert in the electric power industry. He is also the primary author of 7 patents in advanced demand response in electricity market. Thank you for joining Alain, Anchal, and Antoine. It's always a pleasure having you and having your support for this initiative. Antoine, I will start with you. Based on your experience with biodiesel and clean fuel initiatives, what common policy or incentive, it depends, do lead in region in US share in promoting clean transportation and those alternative fuels for the transition?
Yeah, well, first let me say thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to be with this amazing panel. Good to see Alain and the rest of the team and all of your folks from all over the world that are tuning in. I would say we're really excited about biofuels, especially biodiesel. I think that some of the U.S. policies over the last decade or so have been pretty good, although in the last few months we've had some challenges. But I think the world can benefit from some of the policies around that the U.S. has employed around providing tax incentives to help medium to heavy duty fleets reduce their carbon footprint by using alternative fuels, especially for like our big trucks, our off-road equipment. In Africa where it doesn't snow much, right? Unless you go way up in the mountains, but there are a lot of port equipment. You have shipping equipment, you have a lot of farms, you have a lot of tractors, you have a lot of just medium heavy duty equipment where using alternative fuels can really be helpful, not only to reduce pollution, but also to provide a source of revenue, both regionally and globally, when we think about food waste, taking that food waste, using it for from restaurants and cooking oils and other food waste, and having that go for biofuels. Then also soybean and corn can be, and other products can be good to take those and use those minerals and oils to produce energy for airplanes to vehicles, right? And marine equipment as well. And so the United States has made some progress, but to be honest with you, it still is not as robust as I would like. We still have our traditional gas stations, even in the DC area where our office is located. We're making progress. We've worked with both local governments, private sector entities to make to use biodiesel and other biofuels. But I would like to see more local fueling stations on every corner with access to biodiesel. Yes, they have ethanol at most of the pumps in the United States, but I like to see higher grades. But on the medium heavy duty, I would love to see more biodiesel for our medium heavy duty vehicles. Right now, our office is working on a resolution which will go to a lot of our local governments in the DC area, Washington, DC area of the United States. And we're going to try to get as many of them to commit to by July of 2026 of beginning that, accelerating the process of using more biodiesel on their medium heavy duty vehicles. We know that in the United States, some communities want to go electric, but not everything is going to be electric, and not all of those opportunities are practical. So we have created a Maryland biofuels task force that will look at certain things. And one of those things that we will be doing in short order is making sure that many of the local towns and villages, where there a population of 3,000 people or 1 million people, that they are more aggressive in using biodiesel. So those are some things that I wanted to share. Under Biden administration, there was a lot of incentive for medium heavy duty vehicles. There's a Diesel Emission Reduction Act program that our office currently manages 2 federal grants to help local government of DC to retrofit and repower some of their vehicles for their water department, their public works department. Those are great models that can help in regions all over the country where you're retrofitting new and existing vehicles that are run on diesel to use biodiesel. It saves money. It provides an immediate impact to the environment. And you can also create jobs as well. And you can help people reach their sustainability and their climate goals. So those are just some few things I wanted to share, and love to.
Thank you, Antoine. We know that you have so much initiative going on in your organization, and your support to the local and the regional activities regarding transportation transition is going on well, and I have a lot of people happy about it, talking to me, and hopefully, even if the federal action and support slow down, hopefully the states will take on this initiative and continue to support the transition of transportation, especially heavy-duty vehicles. Now, without transition, let ask Anchal today, connecting from Canada. Anchal, you are strategist. What strategy has successfully promoted clean transportation and energy transition in Canadian cities based on your experience.
Thanks, Salima, for the question, and good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be on a panel with all of you and hear your insights. So I'll first touch upon clean transportation, and then I would move to energy efficiency. So I got a chance to start my journey in Canada working with the independent system operator of Ontario. And while I was there, I did get a chance to contribute to a study called Decarbonization for Ontario, where we looked at, what the supply sources can look like. And of course, energy efficiency was something that really stood out, as well as batteries. So when we talk about clean transportation, there are many provinces like British Columbia and Quebec who have already adopted a zero emission vehicle mandate, which requires all new vehicle sales to be electric by 2035. And cities like Vancouver, Montreal are also supporting that with like EV ready policies and fleet targets. There are also some rebates and incentives that are already in place to make EVs more accessible, and they're led with like both provincial and municipal programs, which have definitely reduced the barrier to entry in terms of cost. In Toronto, we can already see that they have, in cities like Toronto in Ontario, they already have EV ready building codes, which are also supporting uptake of EVs, especially in residential buildings. There's also an element of public transit. So there's a lot of concerted effort to electrify public transit. So we have in Toronto, we have the TTC, which is the Toronto's Transit Commission. And then we also have Montreal's Transit, which are actively deploying electric buses. And these are supported by Canadian Infrastructure Bank and also federal transit funding. So all of this is really, making sure that the cost barrier is being reduced. There's also, there are some pilots going on for low emission zones and also exploring things like congestion pricing. So overall, I would say that in clean transportation, the biggest strategy has really been, removing that first barrier to entry, which is usually cost. So a lot of concerted effort is being put into that. When I talk about energy efficiency, like I already said, demand side management programs are, of course, a very, very critical part of any, supply resource mix. So when it comes to energy efficiency, there are municipal green building standards, which are driving up performance for new builds. In Toronto, we have the green standard. In Vancouver, we have the zero emissions building plan, which require developments to meet aggressive efficiency and carbon benchmarks. We also have Canada Greener Homes Grant, which is supported by accelerators in cities like Edmonton, which is, driving up the demand for deep retrofits across Canada. And another thing that is really standing out is also transparency of data and disclosure of that data. So cities like Toronto and Calgary are really leading when it comes to energy benchmarking, but also disclosure, requiring all the large buildings to report and improve their annual energy performance. So I think, there are like really directed efforts being taken both in energy efficiency and EV infrastructure. Another point that I would like to make is, and which is something that I've personally been involved in and I'm seeing, is that in the wake of the tariffs that have been recently implemented, there is a lot of cross-provincial collaboration that is happening, which is also really supporting, just like important conversations around EV infrastructure in Canada, which is very, very heartening. So yeah, I feel like the tariffs are kind of helping us come together.
I can understand. We talked to many of our friends in Canada, and the tariffs is not helping right now. But the partnership started already between the two countries. Won't stop just like that. It will continue. There is other solutions to tackle. I will note that data and cost is key to scale the solutions for clean transportation and energy efficiency.
Yeah,
And
like
I will,
transparency. Transparency in data is extremely important. Yeah.
yeah. There's some discussion to go over there, but we will move back because of the time restraint. We will move to Alain Steivan, and thank you for being with us again. Alain Steivan, based on your international expertise in the US, can you tell us if the US is on a good track to transform the grid to handle the upcoming expected load? If we talk about the transportation transition for heavy duty, if we talk about the development of AIS data centers, and so and also the heat waves where we need more AC, more energy to manage that. What is your vision or your comment on that? You are mute.
Thank you. If you're asking my opinion, I don't think we're on a good track. I mean, we're late. I don't know if anybody who's living on the East Coast of the United States probably noticed last week that we were very close to run out of grid capacity. The PGM system, which is responsible for the energy security over 13 mid-Atlantic states all the way back to Chicago, was 10 gigawatt, had barely 10 gigawatt of spare capacity. And we're in the month of June. So we have a big problem in the sense that the numbers are not adding up, okay? And we need a diversity of solutions, short-term solutions and long-term solutions. And we can see those solutions overseas. We can see them in Canada. We can see them in China. We can see them in Western Europe, in particular, Australia too. But we need to accelerate. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. Otherwise, we are just dreaming. We're just dreaming things that are not going to happen physically. So if we're talking about the grid itself, it takes a lot of time from the permitting all the way to going in operation. It takes a lot of time. It's not just in the United States. It takes, we did a number of years ago a survey, it takes 7 to 10 years worldwide to build a new transmission line, more like 10 in California, as a matter of fact. With a notable exception, it takes 2 to 3 years in China. What China has been doing in building their infrastructure the last 20 years is truly amazing. If we're talking about power production, again, we have short-term and long-term solution. It takes time to build a new power plant, whether it's coal or gas, and definitely nuclear. Okay, we have a lot of exciting things happening on the nuclear side, but it takes many years in order from the initial studies all the way to going in operation. It takes up to 10 years or more, depending where you are. If you're talking about solar and wind, well, there is a lot of solar and wind, and there will continue to be some. But again, it's got to be balanced, because replacing the inertia of the big power plants with solar and wind that has no inertia puts the grid at risk of instability. If you're looking at data centers, well, I think we're looking at the wrong place. Data centers, indeed, are going to be a big impact on the grid. A modern AI data center is 100 to 150 megawatt, even more. That's the size of a small power plant. But there they're looking at co-locating the generation next to the data center, or placing the data center next to a power plant. Or why not putting the data centers in Iceland, where there is plenty of geothermal? So I'm very excited to see the small modular nuclear reactor solutions, including a data center. So I'm not worried too much about the data centers. What I'm worried about is all the big plans that the trucking industry has for the electrification of trucks. Okay, I was at a conference last month, and I mean, people are dreaming. You know, when you're adding the numbers that they claim they can do, you're going to take the grid down. The grid is not going to be there. So
Yeah.
what I like, there are alternate solutions. Antoine just talked about biodiesel. That's definite. But there is another solution that we are not talking about in this country, and I don't know why. Maybe it's not politically correct. But
this is what I wanted to ask you regarding to the list of challenges you have already talked about.
It was
the solution.
Yeah, it was developed in California, and then it failed. Economically, it failed. It went to China, and China has deployed it, starting with the EVs and now with the medium to heavy duty trucks. And it's called swappable batteries. So in China, the charging infrastructure is built in the cities for small distances, but on the highway you have swappable batteries. And
sorry, Alain, Steivan, sorry to cut you off. It's just to continue the discussion. I want just to sum up a little bit the solutions here. Antoine talked about regarding US. Is talked about the importance of developing the alternative fuels, including biodiesel and so on. You talked about the importance of energy storage and battery and swapping batteries. This is solution and I think something like that, a combination is something that is promising for the future. Before we move to the next session, I want to see if there is any question that we have from our other panelists or our attendees. Let's see if our panelists wants to ask question, please go on. Otherwise, I have another question for our guest. Okay, I'm going first. My last question before we move to the next session is to talk, can you give us your perspective regarding developing strategies for the workforce needed to advance EVs and biofuels and boost the sustainable urban mobility, including transit? Can you, Aanchal, start? I will ladies first. Can you give us your perspective for next year on advancing EVs and developing workforce for this new technology?
Yeah, so I definitely have, like, my top two priorities would be like developing digital and data skills. So we definitely need like more talent in EV fleet management, better customer experience, like better data sharing. Also, I feel like there have to be like more equity focused workforce programs to target women, to target newcomers. Canada is a land of immigrants.
Yeah.
So targeting newcomers, marginalized communities, like these are things which are extremely important.
Thank you, Aanchal. Antoine, we would love to hear your...
Yes. So a couple of things that really excites me, and I think it'd be good for communities all over. We're working on a program right now with one of the local community colleges to adopt a curriculum at some of the junior colleges in our region and across the country to help train people to become EV charging technicians for repairing charging stations. But the other big thing as well is to get people trained on how to fix the vehicles. So whether you're in China, you're in Africa, you're in Europe, you're in the United States, there is a tremendous shortage of people that know how to fix and repair charging stations.
Absolutely.
But also equally important is the vehicles. Some parts of the world there, you can just Google it. Some people in large numbers, when electric cars break, they're just taking them right to the junkyard. And that's a travesty. So those are two fixable things that can put a lot of folks to work. And so whether it's through a training program at a high school or a secondary school or a college or a trade school, training people on how to work on electric cars, electric buses, and EV charging stations, I think would be a great thing to do.
Regarding, thank you, Antoine. Alain, regarding the workforce for this upcoming data center, new technology for the grid, VPP, virtual power plant, do you see that the workforce and the engineer are ready to move quick to handle these technologies?
Yeah. First of all, I want to reinforce what was just said by Antoine and Aanchal, is that there is a very serious shortage of trained individuals in any aspect associated with renewable EVs and things like that. And in fact, even for me, I've got a solar installation on the roof. Whenever I'm losing an inverter upstairs, it takes weeks, if not months, for the company to come and fix it because they don't have enough trained people. So I'm very much in support of accelerating the trade programs to as alternate education to the workforce. I'm very much in support of that. In terms of practical solution, I'm very big on swappable batteries for trucks. That's a solution that works very well by our Australian partner in Australia. Just bringing that in the United States as a complement to the traditional charging infrastructure would generate a lot of new jobs. I mean, those guys, they're turning a diesel truck into an electric truck. I'm talking about Class 8 for $150,000. It takes 2 weeks to do it, and it takes a local shop to do it. And that brings new jobs. And I'm saying those.
Thank you. We love hearing this. We probably have more time in our next discussions to go deeper with our guests and attendees on this topic, because it's a very interesting topic. Battery swapping alternative to boost the electrification of heavy duty vehicles. Thank you. Now I think we have to move to the next session. I want to thank you again. Stay with us. Don't leave. You need our other guests and panelists need your support and ask your question. Now we are moving to the Europe session with free ticket. I'm offering you all free tickets to Europe. Please welcome our next guest, Leon. Leon, Steivan. Aanchal will take care of managing and moderating this upcoming discussions. Thank you, Aanchal. The mic is yours.
Yes. Hello, everyone, and welcome again. So this session, we're going to be focusing on the European aspect of climate finance for a green transition. We have Leon still joining us from Netherlands, and we have Steivan Defilla joining us from Switzerland. So I'd like Leon to introduce himself, Steivan to introduce themselves, and then Leon, you can start with your presentation.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so my name is Leon Stille. I'm indeed from the Netherlands. I actually live in Sweden at the moment, but that's no consequence. It's still in the European Union. I'm a geologist by trade. I did a lot of different things in my life on innovation with business, and I'm currently running my own business and supporting several startups and scale-ups in carbon capture and storage, and hydrogen, biofuels, and also some solar. So I always like to think that I know a little bit about energy and very broadly in the sense of where we can apply it to the most effective way. Just to give you a bit of my perspective on this finance question. So what we've been seeing a little bit in the European Union, but I think it's worldwide, is a bit of a backlash on deployment and applicability of renewables. Of course, when you look back a few years ago, the urgency was felt a bit more. But since, of course, if you talk about Europe, the perspective of high energy prices because of the Ukrainian war, but also all the disruptions that have taken place over time and sort of the need that people feel to also focus on other issues than only the climate, like security for Europe, for example, makes it more harder for renewables and to be deployed. Having said that, we have this combination of the new industrial Green Deal. There's the Green Deal. On top of that, we have the new industrial deal that is being proposed, and also the report made by Mario Draghi on how to strengthen the industrial base of Europe to be more ready for the future. So within those proposals, there have been a lot of different aspects on financing, on risk management, to sort of enhance the security and the prosperity of Europe over a longer period of time. Because especially the high energy prices, the disruption of that within the market of those high energy prices, make it very hard for current industry, maybe legacy industry, but also new industries like, for example, battery manufacturers, to be able to establish themselves and to continue operating within the EU. So the focus should be on strengthening on the one side, of course, the renewables, the capacity, but definitely also the grid. We heard a few previous speakers in the panel also mentioning that it's very important that the grid should also grow with the capacity of the renewables as well, so that they can handle all these different dynamic power surges and storage capacity systems. So the EU has introduced things like contract for differences, and is also proposing to enlarge the room that the member states have to sort of stretch the budgetary rules somewhat to be able to finance large-scale renewable projects, low-carbon projects, things like that, and also focus on the other aspects that are part of the energy transition, like the materials, raw materials, that kind of thing, that is connected together in a sort of a single package. So that kind of projects that also take that into account are preferable over maybe other projects that are also in the renewable space. They're also proposing things like, which are already there, the hydrogen bank, for example, but also the European Investment Bank is widening its mandate so that finance can be also diverted to the small, medium enterprises that comprise about 99% or something of the EU companies that have difficulty finding this finance. So all these packages basically are aimed at focusing on the things that have the highest bang for the buck. So that has the lowest price in terms of CO2 reduction technologies, and on the other hand, in widening the criteria, the parameters of the financing, also taking into account these other things like the raw earth materials, things like that. So I think that's very positive, but it remains to be seen because within the EU is, of course, very, very big, and the member states need to be able to take it up.
Thank you, Leon. I do have a question for you, but I'll go to Steivan first and then come back. Steivan, you can introduce yourself and start your presentation. I think what we would like to hear from Steivan is which green finance instrument has had the most impact for cities that are aiming for 30% solar PV and nearly 100% renewable energy by 2050. So would love to hear your thoughts on that, Steivan.
Yes, so you can already put on my presentation. I show some slides. So I'm a former energy advisor of the Swiss government. And since 2010, I was director in the Energy Charter in Brussels. And now I am professor in the Tianjin University in China. So I make a step backwards. First of all, to tell you that finance and governance are actually closely linked. And this is for quite systematic reasons. I look at the medium of interaction in different spheres, and if you look at the on the top right, you can see the Sustainable Development Goals, all ordered in this cake shape. In the center, you have governance, is SDG 17, and then around we have the economic goals, and then further you have the society goals, and the outermost are the environment goals. And in fact, there is a systematicity because energy is the medium of interaction in the environment, and information is a specific type of energy, and that is the medium of interaction of the society. Then money is a specific type of quantitative information, and that is the interaction within the economy. And finance is a specific type of money that is with time-deferred counter performance, and that is the medium of interaction within the governance system. So you can go to the next one. What is this? No, you should slow down. You should go down. It's not correct. It doesn't show correct. Yeah, this one. No, yeah, this one is it. Okay. So we talk actually about green finance since about 2015. And green, what is green finance? Green finance is actually finance allocated to green activities. And green activities are defined in green taxonomies. So China and the EU are both spearheading the development of international development of green taxonomies. And you can see in the table that they are quite similar. Formally, they basically agree, but of course you have individual differences between all of them. And most of the countries worldwide have now adopted green taxonomies under the impulsion of the international financial institutes, but we have notable exceptions, that is the US and Japan, who did not even start the process of thinking about this. So we can go to the next one. So yes, green finance instrument, actually we have 4 types of green finance instrument. We have green bonds, green loans, green equity, and credit risk guarantees. I think all of them are important. The first 2 are normally under the debt, and the second 2 are under equity. So where should they go to? Well, the energy transition requires a certain number of things to be done. That is, we should aim, the cities should aim actually, and I talk here from the perspective of implementing this in cities. Each city should have a target of producing 5 megawatt-hour per person per year. That is the energy consumption of decent living standards, should produce this as in form of renewable energy generation within its own border. That's not very much. This is just a fraction of what we consume today, but this is the minimum which should be produced within the cities. How much area does this need? Well, all the cities are, even if they are very dense and have high energy consumption, normally with 30% of land area of the city, they should manage to have this, to fulfill this target of 30% of 5 megawatt-hour per person. And then we should, of course, have enough storage, because when we go to carbon neutral societies, we have more and more electricity, and the ratio between renewable storage and total energy storage should gradually approach 100% by 2015. That is, 2050, we should replace the other energy storage by battery energy storage mainly, or so-called electricity energy storage. And then the capacity, transmission capacity, because the city doesn't produce all its renewable energy within its borders, we have actually a certain amount of electricity which should be imported, and that is simply the difference between the final energy consumption per capita and these 5 megawatt-hour per person, which are produced locally. So the sum of the transmission capacity at the entry points of the city should be higher than this one in order to have the energy security. And then 2 things which we should monitor: the green value added per green sector employee. That is actually the employment productivity of the green sector. For this, we don't have any data yet. And what I show in this small field in this small in the table is actually the development of the employment productivity in about 20 countries, different countries, and you can see in many of them it has very much increased in the last 20 years or so. And we should see the same. We should have data to follow the same thing for the green sector, that is green value added by green sector employee. And then the last one, we should monitor the debt to equity ratio of the green finance. Within the green finance, the debt to equity ratio is very important in general, in economics, in finance, and usually it is around 200%, and that is for a normal risk activity. If it is higher, then it is a higher risk, and if it is lower, it is for a lower risk. We should aim around this figure in order to have a catalytic factor of around 4. That is we should have 4 times as much debt which is being pulled in by equity. And now to come to your question, what is the best strategy to use? Well, we should see actually what model we have used in Switzerland, for instance. How did electricity start in Switzerland about 130 years ago? Well, that was by a model which is called the stakeholder clients. The cities all of the cities have actually created their energy enterprise, their electricity enterprise, and they become stakeholders of a company, and they became also the clients of this company. So they bought back the electricity which the company has created. And so this old and robust model should be replicated also today for the energy transition. That is, cities should create companies or public-private partnerships providing renewable electricity and selling it back to their main stakeholder, to the city administration which they use it, and also to the general public in the city. So these companies should then be partly financed by equity, and they may take bonds on the bond market to have a part of this catalytic effect. So they might also use the credit risk guarantees to de-risk their business. So basically, that is the big part of the finance should be on equity and on bonds with the right proportion. So that's my answer to your question. So I think I can stop here and back to you.
Thank you, Leon and Steivan. I do have one question, and it's open to both of you. What do you see are the main financial hurdles that European companies are facing, especially when it comes to adopting, cleaner practices? And Leon, you did sort of touch upon it, but I would just like you to talk a little bit more about, what do you think are the key challenges or like barriers?
Shall I start? Maybe Steivan can.
Yes, please. Yes,
if you want. Yeah. So the main barrier. There are a lot of different barriers, of course, but the accessibility of finance in itself is available. You have a lot of public and public-private partnerships, but I think that the main thing is still the same as it has been for a while, which is if for example, industry would like to decarbonize their processes and things like that, then they require some kind of a room in their margin or in their way of working financially, basically, to get a private to get private financing going. And then you see that they always ask for a public-private type construction. And that, I think, is the main thing. I mean, in the Netherlands, it turned out, it sounds very logical, but if I can take an example of the Netherlands, that we have been working now for 4 years on so-called in Dutch maatwerkafspraken, which translates to specific deals that can be made with large industrial emitters, for example. So the Dutch government identified 20 of them, which basically emit 50% of all the CO2. And they would say, okay, we will make a deal with you specifically for you to get your financing and subsidy. And then there's banks involved that can get the additional finance for you. But it turned out not to work at all. So there was only one company that after 4 years has signed a deal. For the rest, nobody has really getting anything out of that. So it seems that there are still very much financial, sort of almost ideas about the future, I would say, that come into play. It's not a real key financial hurdle, perhaps, but even with free money available from subsidies, it turns out to be still very difficult. And I cannot really explain everything why, but there seems to be a significant amount of hurdles still that we have to overcome.
Great, thank you so much. We do have one question, I think, from the audience. How is the EU getting its cities ready for climate change in water, energy, and health?
Well, yeah, I can try to answer this. The EU has, of course, this global covenant of mayors, which started as European covenant of mayors some 15 years ago, and has developed very much, and has also helped, and is still helping to raise the share of renewables within the EU, and to catalyze all the different problems coming up within in the process of the energy transition. So the EU is actually quite well prepared, also because that is already a long-term process which has started in the 1990s in the Rio conference in '92, where the local governments have actually played a very strong role in the EU and continue to play a strong role. So in the EU, probably the local governments are the strongest worldwide compared to other regions where this should happen. So the EU is rather a model for other regions than a problem, I should say. And to come back maybe to the question which has just been asked before, I think the financing problem basically is now in the developing world. Basically, because in the developed countries, you have enough finance. You know, with all the pension fund system, and so there's enough finance around to finance, in fact, the energy transition. But this finance does not want to go to developing countries because there is too much risk. And in the developing countries, of course, the need is very high. So the shortage, the financial shortage, is in the developing world, and we should find this kind of cooperation, international cooperation on these kind of issues, how to channel and satisfy both sides, because on sides of the donors you have the risk, which should be minimized. For that we have the credit risk guarantees, which are very important and can be employed internationally, and you have the on the receiver side, they have the quantity. They need a lot. They need a lot of money. So, but they must also be able to use it correctly, and that is, it must be the right proportion between debt and equity. If you give only debt, only public debt, then there will be they will have too much debt in these countries. So you have to give the right proportion.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Steivan and Leon. Those are some really interesting points, and we'll summarize and share it with the larger audience. We'll now move on to our next session, which will be the last session. We'll talk about energy transition and climate solutions in Latin America and the Indo-Pacific region. So I will start with Monica. Monica, you can introduce yourself, and we'd like you to talk about, what do you see is the significant role for clean coal in reaching net zero targets, especially in regions that are heavily dependent on coal?
Thank you, Aanchal, for the invitation. So I guess that when people talk about coal and think about these topics, things dirty, pollution, smoke, and something from the past. But if you think that you are not burning coal, that you are burning really money, so you realize, like energy efficiency specialists like I am for more than 20 years now, in different regions now, I told you that coal will be sustainable for the future and as part of our future. And I am not talking because my passion of it. I am thinking in the numbers. When we think the reality, more than 35% of the electricity nowadays is generated by coal, and is an abundance and cheap resource and produced almost everywhere. So it's also very valuable when we think about energy security. Even my country, that is one of the most cleanest energy mix, when we have long periods of droughts, we trust in coal. But the way is not that we use it. Coal is not the problem, it's how we use it, the way that we use it. And when we think about clean coal, we should think in the benefits of using efficiency or using clean coal technologies to eliminate carbon clouds, as I mentioned in this small slide. Because when you think about using clean coal, you are thinking in the benefits of it. Air quality, you improve air quality, you reduce emission and reduce particulate matter. So when I think about clean coal technologies, human beings, we have been worried about use and improving coal for many years now. And my first approach to clean coal technologies was close to 2008 in a big coal washing plant. And I realized that we were able to reduce, for instance, ash from 40% to 5% in a huge and a giant machine. Was an after and before and after story, because I realized that we have better technologies to use the coal. And it's just an example, but when we go for the traditional ways to clean coal, we should think in things like, for instance, washing coal, for instance, all the combustion process that is improving efficiency with oxy-combustion, improving efficiency in many cases, especially here in Latin America or in emerging economies. We still we overlook the possibility of energy efficiency and combustion efficiency that has a lot of benefits, because you use the most of the coal that you have available in your country. So when we think about that, we just not think, or I not just think in efficiency, I think also in all the post-combustion technologies like FGD, like using low NOx burners, like trying to remove all the dust emissions to ESP or back filters. And this is like the typical that is steady there. We still have this technology, it's available, it's commercial, it's usable, and it's proof that works. But when we go beyond that, we realize that we have advanced technologies that are in operation right now, and they are working in places like China or India or even Japan or the States, that is coal gasification, for instance. If you go for the next slide, please. You realize that we have advanced technologies that are not limited to the things that we think in the past. When we think about ultra-critical and supercritical and ultra-supercritical units, you are thinking improving efficiency in the reality, and there are coal power stations in real for doing that. When you think about coal gasifications, it's further not just to convert coal to gas, that is a way to reduce emissions pretty good. And we think in underground coal gasification that is still in place in commercial units in the Asian side. So you should think as well that we have like a complete variety of ways to use the coal more efficiently. For instance, membranes. This is a pretty new technology that basically with pretty smart filters remove the CO2. When you think about carbon sequestration, you think about things like convert CO2 into amines to convert for chemical processes in another product. So we have a complete set of new possibilities when we think about sustainable practices and sustainable and advantage technologies to use coal properly that has been researched for many years, that now are in place, but you have the possibility to put now in different countries. Why I talk about coal gasification? Because in the case of Colombia, if I come to my home country, I told you we are one of the cleanest energy mix in the world. We have the sixth cleanest energy mix in the world. We are mostly power provided by hydro. But when we have long periods of drought, we need to rely in coal, even if people don't like it, it's a reality. But the problem is how we use it better. So in the future, we also are facing like a crisis of energy based on gas. Most of our home base is using natural gas nowadays. More than 90% of the country rely on natural gas for housing provide, but not just for housing provide, but also for power generation and for mobility. But we realized that in a period for less than 5 years now, we are going to be in a crisis of natural gas. So from my perspective and knowing these technologies, I am fan from coal gasification because it's a way to use a resource that we already have. We have plenty resources of coal and use that for provide gas to the national security in energy in gas and for home base as well. So when I see how to combine the traditional technologies with new technologies, it depends on your country and your needs. And how you use these advantage and new technologies in order to develop your country using the best of the resources that you have, because it's not taking apart some resource, it's taking most of the resources in the best way possible. From my perspective, we are not in the era of energy transition, we are in the era of energy addition. We need more sources to provide energy to different places that try to take out many of the resources we already have, but we should use them in the best way possible.
Thanks a lot, Monica. That was a really interesting perspective. I mean, coming from India, this was actually very, very interesting for me. And now we'll go to Dr. Bhupendra Singh. So, Dr. Bhupendra, I know that you have a presentation and we'd like you to introduce yourself and then also tell us how do you think we can speed up the clean and sustainable energy transition in the Indo-Pacific region? You're on mute.
Myself is a former advisor, Ministry of External Affairs, where I was looking Energy Security Division and was also responsible for many climate change program also. So as far as India is concerned, India has, very much, you can say that prepared to address climate change concern, but India also want to secure its energy. So energy security and climate change, how both can be done. So India has adopted a strategy, and by and large, they are telling that there should be a just transition. So for that, Indo-Pacific region, all, if you see, by and large, they are more dominant for their energy sources by, you can say that fuel that is coming from the coal and others. GHG emission is the prime concern. However, every country has, committed to achieve its net zero. So India has also targeted to achieve its net zero by 2070. And the GHG emission to reduce about 45% reduction by 2030. So for this, how we can do this? So India has done a lot of in this regard, and even They have guided many Indo-Pacific countries for that, because India is also, is a partner of East Asian Summit, and they are continuously working with the ASEAN also and giving their knowledge. Next slide, please. So there were three, strategy for India. One is to enhance production of renewable energy as much as you can. Second is that deploy, because transportation emission is also one of the factor in India. So how we can deploy electric vehicle. And third is to establishment of Indian carbon market. For as far as renewable energy is concerned, this is the latest data. Till March 2025, total renewable installed capacity was 220.20 gigawatt. So it was, huge. India has targeted to make installed capacity around 500 gigawatt by 2030. So I think it is a good start, and we are in the mid. So we will do it that. Then if you segregate, different, like solar installed capacity, India has achieved 105.65 gigawatt. This is also latest, till March. Wind installed capacity, we have also achieved around 50.04 gigawatt. And bioenergy, it's a very, very, fascinating thing is that we have achieved to generate around 11.58 gigawatt. So there is a huge initiative for renewable energy. Now coming to the biofuel, India is now the third largest producer in the world. So many things are going on, and even in the ethanol blending, India has achieved around 20%, blending. 5 years before, we have actually initially when we started ethanol blending program, there was a speculation by 2025, 2030 we will achieve it. But before 5 years we have achieved this. Now this figure you can show, this is that electricity, the generation, India has achieved a wonderful target that 45.60% the renewable energy has come. Now, still fossil fuel is dominating 52.60, but it is estimated but 2047, only the fossil fuel percentage will be go down to 27%. So India will be, working what we call as the Viksit Bharat. So climate change concern is our prime, concern, and we are addressing that. Next slide, please. And this is the EV. How we are getting, around 1.96 million EV registered till today. So it is a huge, movement for deployment of electrical vehicles. And for the electric vehicle, if you see, 30% in private cars and around 40% in buses and 80% in two-wheelers there. Battery charging is the main problem for EV, but India has taken a wonderful steps, and around, I am talking about the public charging stations, around 26,367 public charging station has been installed. So India is on the move towards, to address the climate change concern and create, green, sustainable India. Next, please. So now I'm coming to Indian carbon market. It can't be, only renewable energy, EV or green hydrogen. India has also doing very much on green hydrogen also, energy storage also, many things, many programs. Is a lot. There is a less time here. We can't, explain all the more. But the main thing is that the landmark initiative was the creation of Indian carbon market. Though they have started, CDM and others from 2010, but it is the Bureau of Energy Efficiency who were addressing the issue to minimize the GHG emission, and they have initiated PAT scheme also in 2012. So 3 cycles of PAT, perform, achieve, and trade, that is PAT, has already been done, and there was a great success. However, it has been speculated that what we have to reduce the GHG emission, we have not reduced. So the government of India has launched Indian Carbon Market program, that is called ICM, and it is again run by Bureau of Energy Efficiency. It is in 2022, and the landmark, very landmark initiative was the introduction of Carbon Credit Trading Scheme, CCTS, and which is going to be officially launched in April 2026. And regulatory frameworks, institutional frameworks, all has been done, and pilot program has also been done. So India is in the move for the creating a green environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhupendra. Thank you, Monica. Before we go to our last session where we share last thought and sum up our discussion, I want to ask Monica a question we had in the chat about the necessity, what is the rationale for going for new coal power plant rather than building other renewable applications in Colombia?
When we go to solar and wind, we tend to think that they are cheaper than coal. But unfortunately, when you see some studies from Bank of America or economists like Chernikov or some Chilean economists as well, you realize that is not the completely true. When you see all the intermittency, the need of new technologies, the new batteries, the new many things to guarantee the power supply, coal is still one of the cheapest ways of produce electricity. And I guess one pretty obvious case, and I know that is other things is related, is the Spain blackout.
Okay.
I guess this is a very good example of when you have not the complete inertia managed very well in the energy mix or in energy grid, you could have problems. And this is my point, and I point you really examples just to show my
Thank you.
point.
Thank you, Monica. I share with you that we need to be practical and realistic when it comes to each region, each country in terms of resources available, cheapest one. Financial is a critical point for decision, for strategies. We know that. But what I believe as someone talking and being in a room, several meeting room with international experts, that is part of the bridge going cleaner. We have to have clean coal before leaving the coal power plants for a cheaper and cleaner energy in some
Exactly.
region.
So when you think about clean coal technology, I think what is cheaper, to have clean coal technologies or not having energy at all for a day or for a couple of days? This is my point. And we already face it. I don't know if you are laughing because you think as the same as me, but let's face the reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Monica. I want, before we invite Steivan, Defilla, and Steivan to give us their last thought, I want to ask you and Dr. Bhupendra, what is your opinion about and your comments about the upcoming new European carbon border adjustment mechanism that it will be in place next year regarding the certification for importers outside of the EU. I see that this is some key point for the importers of external goods. Monica, and maybe I will ask Dr. Bhupendra, what do you think? This is something that will impact the export from India to Europe or not?
Yeah.
From my okay, go, Dr. Bhupendra.
Okay. So India, there are, if you go through the EU cross-border, carbon, so you will find is that there are two scopes, scope 1 and a scope 2.
Mhm.
Scope 1 is, implemented for the, it is direct emission, and scope 2 indirect. So yes, it is, now if at the present position, it is affected, especially aluminum and steel industry is going to be very much affected. But power sector is not going to be affected because it's not directly emitting. Coal is also not going to be affected because it is not directly, So melting is, the main thing where the European Union carbon will be, CBM, we can say that.
Yes.
But problem, yes. But India has, position to that, against this. We have introduced CCT, Carbon Credit Trading Scheme, and India is, telling many companies, you can basically where there is a high emission to, follow this, that.
Yeah.
And if CCT will be implemented, I don't think that there will be more, problem. Still, if it is not, to present in the present point, the export will be very, very high. Indian goods will be, very, costly, and in the European market, the competition of Indian products will be, will be not very, very high. So competition by India will be, backward at present position. But India is taking some steps, to address this situation.
Nice. Let's see for Colombia and for Latin America what the comment from our friend Monica. What do you think this certification coming up from Europe regarding exportation from Latin America to Europe?
When you think regarding these new tariffs and the new regulation, I guess there is a lot of risk in many cases because as we talk about, we are like in different, how do you say, in different inefficiency stage.
Okay.
So when you haven't improved your efficiency complete and you are in traditional methods to control emissions already, try to compete with other regions that they are already in advanced methods is pretty difficult. Because you need a lot of finance, as Steivan mentioned, in emerging economies, in order to have access to new and developed and advanced technologies. So when you don't have that access or the limitation because the finance, trying to compete at the same level is make your life more difficult.
Hopefully, some mechanism that I heard about the carbon market and some companies have solutions for Latin America to be ready for this coming certifications for exportation.
Yes, but the certifications are more based in how many plants. Most of the certifications are already in how you preserve the environment regarding plants and animals. That's great. I agree with that. But if we need and the price from my perspective, and I am
Thank you,
but
Monica.
it's still very, very, pretty low compared with the benefits of
I
that.
see. I see. Let's. I want to thank you for your participation, for the insight for today. We have the recording for those who missed the opportunity to hear from our guests, and we will have a wrap-up video with some highlights and insight to share as well later on. But before we leave, I want to hear from Anna Steivan and Steivan Defilla the last word regarding the expectation for all of you. My first question: what is soon this year we will have the COP30 in Brazil, and talking from different regions of the world, from Latin America, from Bhupendra from India, US, and Europe. What should be the most expected result you are waiting from this meeting this year from COP30? Let's start with our friend Steivan Defilla.
Yes, I'm not actually a specialist of COP, you see, but I think something has changed or is being changing now in this between now and 2030, and that is economics. We do not really share the analysis which have been made by some other speakers that solar and especially solar and wind energy are expensive. In our view, in our empirical analysis, the solar unsubsidized solar and wind are the cheapest one, going to be the cheapest energy within the next 2 to 3 years, provided they are being tendered in internationally competitive tendering of the type which you have had in the last 10 years in the Gulf states, in the Emirates, in Kuwait, and in Saudi Arabia, and so on. They have produced a lot of very cheap solar energy because they have made internationally competitive tendering. That is the key solution. And so we do not share, we think this is going to be such a strong drive that for any commercial electricity operator needing to expand its production supply basis, the electricity from solar and wind will be together with battery, 12-hour battery storage. In this package will be the solution of choice, no matter what the COP will decide. The COP is being overtaken by the economics. Right, that is my answer.
Thank you for your comments. I will follow closely the COP30 results, and we'll discuss later after the COP about this topic in terms of economics, if it will take over every discussion. Alain Steivan, I think you are one of the biggest on economics when it comes to transition, if we are talking about energy, grid, or transportation. And I will let you close the discussion today with your insight and comments.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't have much time for that. So I think it's all about balancing expectations with reality. And that's the biggest thing. And obviously, there is the economics, and that's a big one. And in terms of economics, I don't think that we have to rely just on government funding and things like that. There are plenty of ways to come up with economically feasible solution by providing basically support to the grid. It's not just about being adding more load to the grid. It's also bringing some support to the grid. But the other reality is the physics. It's the reliability of the power system, and Monica said it very, very well. And that's something that we've been talking about years and years, and we start hearing about it. It's all about inertia. Okay, you cannot. We saw that several years ago in Australia. We saw that in Germany many years ago. We saw it in the Iberian Peninsula recently. We have to take into account the physics of the system. If you remove the inertia, it's like driving a car at high speed without shock absorbers on a bumpy road.
Thank you for all. My last word is, the world is changing fast. The technology and innovation is going so fast that the problem of today we are talking probably will be obsolete or already solved in 6 months or a year from now. And the discussion don't have to stop here. The conversation can continue. If you want to stay informed, one of our members follow us on our social media in LinkedIn and YouTube, and join this growing network of international climate and sustainable advocates, experts from diverse cross-industry, professional, and so on. Mark your calendar. We have another important discussion, the 4th of September, on climate risk and finance for Europe. Until we meet again for this discussion, I want to thank everyone, our panelists, our attendees, and stay healthy and happy 4th July for the people in US, and happy summer for everyone else. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Bhupendra, and thank you, everyone.
Salim.